Hello students, good morning to you all. Myself I am Dr. M. Indira, Associate Professor in Department of Biotechnology, Vignan University. Today we will see the topic that is from Unit 1, that is Introduction to Geological History of Biodiversity. So in the previous class we have seen the introductory part of how the historical development of biodiversity was evolved on the earth. So in this topic, we will see the elements of biodiversity. Nothing but types of biodiversity. First of all, what is biodiversity? So biodiversity is nothing but all living organisms present on the earth. So we have seen plants, animals, insects, microbes with our naked eye. So all these living organisms, both macroscopic and microscopic, comes under the biodiversity. So this biodiversity, again, there are three types. So in this topic, we are going to learn about what are those three types of biodiversity. The objective of this topic is to overview the various types of biodiversity. So after knowing this biodiversity, the expected outcome from this topic is the overview of different elements or different types of biodiversity will be known. Before going to the introduction, we will see the video animation where it describes various types of biodiversity on the earth.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to talk about biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variety of life in an area, which is determined by the number of species in that area. It's the totality of genes, species, and ecosystems of a region. As biodiversity increases, so does the health of the ecosystem increase. Think of it as if you were running a business. You want your business to be healthy and make money. Imagine you sell shirts. If you only sold a black shirt with a heart on it, you are limited. And if these shirts go out of style, then you're out of business. If you have a variety of shirts, as the fashion style changes, you are better able to adapt to these changes and continue to make money. As biodiversity increases, the ecosystem has a greater ability to adapt to changes. Biodiversity can be broken down into three types: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity is the variety of genes which control inheritable characteristics that are present in a population or species. For example, ladybugs come in a variety of colors. The color is controlled by genes. This gives the species of ladybugs a greater chance of surviving as the environmental conditions change. Think of the variety of dogs. The different shape or color of dogs are controlled by genes and either increase or decrease genetic diversity. Greater genetic diversity increases the odds of survival of a species or population as the ecosystem changes. Species diversity is the number of species and the relative abundance of each species in a community. Take a look at the variety of mushrooms collected from a particular forest. Notice how many different species are found in this area. This habitat would represent an area of a high species of diversity. As species diversity increases, most likely the health of the ecosystem increases. And finally, ecosystem diversity is the variation in the ecosystems found in a region or the variation in ecosystems over the whole planet. It is a measure of the variety of biotic and abiotic factors present in an ecosystem. Rainforests usually have a high ecosystem diversity, and deserts or polar regions usually have a low ecosystem diversity. So there you go, biodiversity, genetic, species, and ecosystems. And as these three increase, then most likely the health of the ecosystem also increases. Thanks for watching, and Moo Math uploads a new math or science video every day.
So we have seen the biodiversity types present on the earth in the video animation. So let us see the introduction part. So what is biodiversity? So biodiversity is nothing but various types of living organisms present on the earth. What are those living organisms? Living organisms are nothing but plants, animals, and microbes. So whatever the living organisms present on the entire ecosystem, all these living organisms categorized into three domains. One is archaea, another one bacteria, and third one eukarya. So these plants and animals, these together comes under eukaryotic organisms, which are multicellular organisms. And this microbes, the microbes categorized under both the bacterial domain as well as archaeal domain. Archaeal domain is nothing but the organisms lives in extreme conditions. Extreme conditions nothing but marine environment where high salt concentration, and the organisms present in depth of the ocean where more high pressure will be there, and some organisms present in the hot springs, so where high temperature condition. That means the microorganisms survive in those extreme conditions also comes under the biodiversity. So all living organisms, plants, animals and microorganisms, all together we can call it as biodiversity. So this biodiversity exists on our earth, and this is the product of the hundreds of millions of years of evolution of all living organisms on the earth. If you see the earth, how the earth was originated. The earth was originated around 4.5 billion years ago. So after earth formation, this biodiversity was originated around 3.5 billion years ago. Initially, single-celled organisms were evolved on the earth. Later, multicellular organisms are evolved. So, in this biodiversity, we can see the variability and diversity. So, the variability among living organisms from all sources. What are those sources? Variety of sources. We can see the terrestrial environment, we can see the marine environment, we can see the desert environment, we can see the cold environment. So, from all these sources, we can observe the variability, nothing but diversity of the microorganisms on the earth. So, the particular definition was coined by the scientist Wilson. Before Wilson, Rosen coined this term biodiversity, and this particular biodiversity was coined in the International Convention on Biological Diversity organized in the year 1992, where they defined that biodiversity is nothing but variability among living organisms from all sources, includes terrestrial, marine and other aquatic ecosystems and the ecological complexes of which they are a part of, and this includes diversity within species, between species and of the ecosystem. That means the diversity, the variety, the differences we can observe within the species, between the species and in the entire ecosystem. So that is called as biodiversity. And if you see this today biodiversity, because of the evolution of living organisms for the past million years, and this evolution is also sometimes the natural processes and sometimes because of human activity, the evolution of living organisms taken place on the earth, and now we are seeing the biodiversity evolved around million years ago. And here if you see the Homo sapiens, before Homo sapiens, the earth biodiversity is much greater than it's today. And today, because of human activities, whatever the human beings, they are playing a critical role in the biodiversity. So, because of this human activity, a tremendous impact was on biodiversity. Because of this, so many species are extinct and so many species are in threatened condition and so many species are in endangered condition. So, the population or the living organisms or whatever the resources are exponentially increased, and sometimes because of human activities there is a decrease in the decrease in the population of the particular species. So we can observe a greater biodiversity was present on the earth. If you see, the total number of species on the earth today is estimated around 10 million different species, and in this new species are discovered and many of these species are not discovered, and in this 10 million different species, so far we have discovered only the 2%. That means we have to discover a lot where we can identify the potentiality of this biodiversity which is helpful for humankind. And we can see out of all these entire ecosystems comes from terrestrial, marine, aquatic, we can see the tropical rainforest and the oceans have more amount of biodiversity. Why? Because here tropical rainforest where the conditions, temperature, humidity and pH, all these conditions are favorable for both plants, animals and microorganisms and insects, where we can observe the variety of the biodiversity in the tropical rainforest as well as the marine environment, nothing but oceans. So, a greater or rich of biodiversity we can observe on the earth. So, in this there are three types of biodiversity, or we can say three levels of biodiversity. If we see those three levels, first one is the genetic biodiversity, second one is the species biodiversity, and third one is the ecosystem biodiversity. What is meant by genetic diversity? So, the genetic diversity is nothing but the changes in the genetic level of a particular species. For example, if you take human beings all are Homo sapiens, but if you see the changes of genes results in the changes in the external appearance. Some people looks like white in color, some people black, and even the environment also influences the changes in a particular species. Some people have grey color of hair and some people have red color and some people have black color. All these changes are because of the genetic level, variation in the genes within a particular species. Because of this, alleles or chromosomal structures will alter, will change. That results in the variety of species because of this genetic diversity. And second one is the species diversity. This is nothing but variety of species in a particular region. Variety of species in a particular region. That is nothing but species richness. For example, if you take one particular area where the species abundance or number will be more. Again, in that, one species differs from another species. That is called species diversity. And here in this picture, you can observe the genetic diversity differences in the genetic material, nothing but DNA. And here species diversity, variety of species in a particular area. For example, if you take one forest area, where variety of plant species, for example, say take wood and another one sandalwood and another one normal banyan tree. So, variety of plant species. Similarly, in case of animals also, then tigers, lions and then deers. So, not only those, the micro environment, nothing but fungal organisms, nothing but bacterial organisms. That means in a particular area, the variety of species existence is called as species diversity. And the third one is the ecosystem diversity or nothing but community diversity. That means diversity at the level of the community and ecosystem. That means if you see the ecosystem, variety of habitats. What is habitat? Habitat is nothing but the region or the area provides the conditions to grow a particular living organism. For example, if you see the grassland habitat differs from desert habitat. where the species existence differs from desert environment to the cold environment. That is called ecosystem diversity. That means in a particular habitat, one particular type of ecosystem will exist. In another habitat, another type of ecosystem will exist. So that is called ecosystem diversity. All these are the three levels of biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. First, we will see the genetic diversity. See here, genetic diversity is nothing but the changes in the genetic material, nothing but chromosomes. And these particular genes determine the specific characteristic features, physical features, then emotional features of an individual organism. That means changes in the gene level results in the external changes, physically both emotionally. And diversity of within a species and processes, how it occurs, how it happens. If we see this changes in the genes is because of the mutations or because of the gene exchange or because of the gene flow or because of the gene dynamics. So, in the evolutionary process, these microorganisms, they are symbiotic with the other organisms also. Some organisms symbiotic with plants, some symbiotic with animals, some symbiotic with viruses. So, in this ecosystem, whatever the species in the evolutionary process, they exchange their genetic material. Because of this, some mutations will happen because of ecosystem environment and because of gene flow from one species to another species and gene exchange, all together results in the variety of species. Second category is the species diversity. Nothing but variety of different species of organisms in a particular region or area. Ecosystem diversity, variety of different ecosystems, nothing but from marine to desert. Marine environment differs from desert environment. Ocean environment differs from temperate grasslands, and cold environment differs from desert type. Like that, different ecosystems will exist on the earth. So here you can see this various genetic changes taking place in the dog species. We can see the physical features change. Here we can see white color and then black hair and then black face type and brown color. All these features, physical features variation is because of the changes in the genes. And again, if we take one particular region where you can see the variety of species, tiger and then lizards and then fungal, insects, fishes and then birds. So, in a particular region, variety of species exist. And again here in this picture you can observe this is the desert type of environment where the particular cactus variety of plants will grow. That means they can tolerate that conditions. And this coral reefs where the fishes and then variety of insects, then prairies, nothing but grasslands, then tundra. So, these are the various types of ecosystems. These are the examples for different levels of biodiversity. First, we will see the genetic diversity. So, it can be defined as variety expressed. The variety expressed at genetic level by each individual in a species. So, each individual, the genes changes results in the changes in the physical features. So, each individual species possesses genes which are the source of its own features, unique features. For example, some people they can tolerate the emotions, some people may not. So, because of changes at genetic level and expression of emotions also varies from one person to another person. And again, a species with high genetic diversity will tend to produce a wider variety of offspring. That means, for example, one parent species is there. The one parent species, when it is reproducing and producing their offsprings with different different mates, it produces a variety of species. Okay. And major causes of variation includes mutations and then gene flow and sexual reproduction. So examples of this genetic variation, how we can see the genetic variation. So for example, if we take eye color change, blood type, then camouflage in animals and leaf modifications in the plants. So changes in the modifications of the leaf structure according to the environment. And camouflage in the animals changes their body color suitable to that particular environment. I'll show some pictures. Here, if you observe, see the variety of genes. So because of changes in the genes, we can see the variety of the corns. And again, here also, variety of the banana plants. So, because of the genes, we can produce a variety of plants or variety of the species of a particular plant or a particular animal. And here, if you see genetic diversity, if it is low or little, the diversity in a species is little or no genetic diversity, will produces the offsprings. Those offsprings are susceptible to the disease or problems. And we can say, hence, little or lack of this genetic diversity reduces the biological fitness of a particular animal or plant and increases the chances of the extinction. Because of the diversity, lack of diversity or no diversity. That means whatever the parent, the same features shared by the offspring, again for 4 or 5 generations, the same features shared from parent to the offsprings, that results in the chance of the exposure to the diseases. That means these particular offsprings are susceptible to the diseases. That means they can't tolerate the disease tolerance will not be there. So, such type of species will go into extinct. That means there is a chance of, for example, say mass outbreak will result in the loss of all these species comes from the parent. So, because of this, we lose the biodiversity. So, extinct of animals or plants we can observe because of the lack or no diversity at the genetic level. And larger populations have greater genetic diversity and they are less vulnerable to the change. For example, here in this picture we can observe, here cheetah population will be there. For example, one female cheetah, if it mates with different types of male cheetahs, it produces the offsprings 1, 2, 3. That means whatever the cubs, offsprings. So, in this offsprings, we can see the variability. So, from this, one variety of cub will be produced, from this another variety and from this another. So, like this, different varieties of cubs will be produced. Those offsprings, they can tolerate the disease. Here in this picture, this particular cub is susceptible to cough, but not the other cubs. So, that means one species, if it is having diversity with variety of species in a sexual reproduction, it produces the offsprings, they are less vulnerable to the diseases. That means their population will exist. In a similar way, in another case, if a female cheetah mates with only one particular male, whatever the offsprings or cubs produced from this parent, they are having the variability is very less, and if all these cubs are susceptible to the cough, that means we may lose this offsprings. Because of this, loss of biodiversity will happen. That means these cubs are vulnerable to the diseases. So, in this case, the population will go into extinct. So, like this, it may happen on the biodiversity. That means more or higher diversity, genetic diversity results in the larger population, and the larger population are not susceptible to the diseases. Next here, some more few examples we can see here. So, no two individuals of the same species are exactly similar. Not. So, in our family also we can see the variations in the children. Here you can see the variety of humans. Physical features you can observe. Person differs from him, differs like this. The features, external features differs from one person to another person. This is because of the genetic changes, genetic diversity within the humans. And here also we can see the native chickens, changes in the chick. And here also the diversity in the beans. So, the genetic changes results in the variety of species. And here also in the dogs, here Chihuahua, one breed and another one Beagle and then Rottweilers, we can see the variety of changes, external features because of the gene level, changes in the genes. So, these are the few more examples. Here also, because of the changes in the genes, we can observe the variety of the corns. And here also the cheetah, because of the less genetic diversity, the population of this cheetah is also going to be in danger. So, here you can see the diversity, the population has crashed to about only 200 individuals at some time in the past. Okay, so they are vulnerable to diseases because of this, this particular population may go into extinct. So, majority of the species vary in their diversity, whereas this particular cheetah, the genetic diversity is only 1%. So, there is a chance of going into the extinct. Whereas in the other cases, there is a genetic diversity of 20%. And here, few more examples. So, if you take human beings, the person's skin color will change and again dimples, prickles and then blood type, all these are the examples of changes in the gene level. And in case of plants, you can see the modified leaves of carnivorous plants and the development of the flowers and the that are resemble to the insects to pure plant pollinators. Those are the changes in the plants. And if we see the animals, in case of animals, we can observe the albinism and cheetahs with stripes and snakes that fly. Those are the adaptations. And some animals, they play just like a dead when any parasite or any predator will come, they act as a dead. And some animals, they mimic the leaves, that is nothing but camouflage. And these variations enables the animals to adapt to the particular ecosystem or particular region. Here in this picture we can observe, here in this picture frog. So, similar to the bark of the tree, and here the butterfly. And here you can see the cheetah, so similar to the what is the tree color. And here in this picture you can observe the snake, adaptation to the same to the leaf color. So, these are the various examples of genetic diversity in the plants, human beings and animals. Now, the species diversity. So, species diversity is nothing but variety of species in a particular region. So, here we can see the species or distinct type of living organism in different habitats of the planet. So, here you can see the variety of species on the planet. And if we take one particular region where we can observe the monkeys, where we can observe the plants, where we can observe the insects in a particular region, that is called species diversity. So, this species diversity, how we can measure means we have to count the number of species in a particular region. Counting the number of organisms of each species in a particular region is called as species diversity. And this can be observed within a particular community. We can observe in a particular community where we can describe the number as well as distribution of the species. Some species, their number is more, some species is less, even the distribution also. So the number of species in a particular region varies from another region. So like this, the species diversity varies because of the environmental conditions. So for example, if you take, we can observe the human society residing in a particular water bodies is more compared with the other regions. For example, say where the water facility is not available, where the human population will be very less compared with the water bodies. So like this, the variety of species we can observe in the biodiversity. And the species diversity can be measured by three ways. First one is the species richness, that is number of various species in a defined area. Then species abundance, that is relative number of species, relative numbers among species, that is called abundance. For example, say tigers, they are abundant, that means their population will be 300 and another monkey population will be 200 only, that is called abundance, abundance of tigers in a particular region. And next, taxonomic or phylogenetic diversity. This we will study at genetic relationship between different groups of species. Here in this picture you can observe, this is the taxonomic category where all the living organisms are arranged at a higher level, that is kingdom, next phylum, class, order, family, genus and species. So species is the lower level. If you see the species, whatever the related species, they all grouped under genus. For example, some species they grouped under one genus, another group of species grouped under another genus. So these two genera grouped under family, different families under order, next class, phylum and finally kingdom, and higher level is the domain. So like this, so the increase in the similarity we can observe in this direction, and in this direction we can observe the diversity, that means difference. So at species level, variety of species we can observe and variety of genera. So like this, we can observe the variety of species, richness and then abundance and the phylogenetic relation. According to this Mora and colleagues, we can observe the 8.7 million of species are exist on the earth. Particularly, oceanic species are lower compared with the other habitats. And then here 2,20,000 vascular plants are estimated using species area relation method, 0.7 to 1 million marine species, 10 to 30 million insects, 5 to 10 million bacteria, 1 million mites and 1.5 to 3 million fungi. So, according to Mora studies, these are the various species existence on the earth. Next, we take a described three levels of diversity in the species category. So, those are nothing but alpha, beta and gamma diversity. What is alpha diversity? Alpha diversity is nothing but within the community diversity. In a particular community, the diversity is called alpha diversity. Next, beta diversity. Beta diversity is nothing but between communities. One community and another community. Between these two communities is called as beta diversity. And the third one is the gamma diversity. That is the diversity of different habitats. Here in this picture we can observe. For example, if we take, this is the one particular community. So this is the community 1. So the diversity within this particular community is called as alpha diversity. And take another community. This is the another community where the species, plant species are there. And this is the community 2. And between these two diversity is called as beta diversity. And another community. All together, the diversity in different communities is called as gamma diversity. That means between communities, alpha, beta, all together is called as gamma diversity. So these are the three categories of diversity under species category. Alpha diversity within a particular community, usually expressed by number of species, that is called species richness. And again, by counting, how we can measure the species diversity? We can measure by counting the number of the taxa. Taxa is nothing but group of organisms. So one similar feature species are arranged into a one particular group, that is called taxa. So all together, whatever the number of taxa comes under the alpha diversity. Next, beta diversity, comparing the diversity between the two ecosystems. So this involves comparing the number of the taxa that are unique to the each ecosystem. For example, say in one community what are the different taxa, in another community what are the different taxa. That is the comparison between the two ecosystems. That is called beta diversity. And this will be a quantitative measure of diversity in the communities. And the third one is the gamma diversity. So this is nothing but total species richness over a large area, or we can say region. That means different communities together called it as a region. In that region, what are the total species? The species richness is called as gamma diversity. So this one measures the overall diversity for the different ecosystems within a region. Different ecosystems means, for example, say water ecosystem and then grassland ecosystem, and together we can say this is called gamma diversity. So this will be expressed using this expression where gamma is equal to S1 plus S2 minus C, where S1 is called as the total number of species recorded in the first community, and S2 is the total number of species recorded in the second community, and C is the number of species common in both communities. So S1 plus S2 total together minus the common species you have to remove, so that you will get the gamma diversity. And ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem diversity is nothing but entire region. So the diversity we can observe in a particular region is called as ecosystem diversity. So these are the few examples. Desert ecosystem, that is one type of region where different species exist. Then rainforest ecosystem, mangroves ecosystem, and then marine ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystem, grassland ecosystem. So all these are the variety of regions where different species exist. So we can see variety of habitats, living communities, and ecological process in the living world. And these are the examples: forest, grasslands, streams, lakes, oceans, coral reefs, wetlands, and biological communities. So all these are preserved by national parks as well as the biosphere reserves. So this comes under the ecosystem. Here in this picture you can observe, this is the entire ecosystem. In this entire ecosystem, you can observe the plants, you can observe the animals, you can observe water bodies, you can observe the plankton, algae, bacteria, fishes, and again termite mounds. So all together this is a particular ecosystem. And these are the various examples of variety of ecosystem. You can observe grassland, forest, desert, and then marine oceans, freshwater lakes, then aquarium, that is one particular ecosystem, crop field ecosystem. And the species also varies from one ecosystem to another ecosystem. Here you can observe the water bodies, the fishes. Esox lucius is abundant in the freshwater lakes. And here Arctic Canada, where this is the region or habitat for polar bear, where the polar bears are present in the Arctic as well as Antarctic environment. And the importance of biodiversity, why it is important. So these diversities, they helps in maintaining the ecological balance. That is nothing but nature. Nature we can maintain the balance, and there is gradually we are observing the loss of biodiversity, and this loss of biodiversity affects our environment also in future. And so we have to realize, and we have to we have to give the preference to the particular biodiversity, where in terms, that is particularly survival of the biodiversity, or we can say the conservation of the organisms, particularly plants, animals, and microbes. So we have to give high priority, and we have to maintain the biodiversity in a ecological balance mode. and recently we observed rate of extinction gone high because of human activities. So we are directly impacting the earth, and we are using all the resources, natural resources. Overusage results in the extent of the population. So because of overpopulation of species also, there is a imbalance in the ecosystem also, and thus we have to give the importance particularly biodiversity, and we have to maintain all these three diversities, species, genetic as well as ecosystem. This is the overall view or summary of the biodiversity on the earth. Here you can observe variety of ecological diversity, ecosystems, various, and here various species in a particular region, and here genetic changes, genetic diversity in a particular one species. And here this is the functional type of biodiversity among all the living organisms on the earth. Now the summary of this topic is there are three levels of biodiversity. One is genetic diversity, genes on chromosomes, changes in the genes. And second one is the species diversity, variety of different species in a particular region. And ecosystem, variety of different habitats is called as ecosystem diversity. And we take a proposed alpha, beta and gamma type of biodiversity, where alpha diversity is within the community, beta diversity is between community, and gamma diversity is all communities together is called as gamma diversity. Study questions are: what are the three levels of biodiversity? Explain about genetic diversity with examples. Describe species diversity. Explain three levels of species diversity proposed by Whitaker, and describe about ecosystem diversity. So these are the study questions. Go through it, and various references collected for developing this digital content. And so we are acknowledging the public domain because of usage of material or content for developing this teaching material. So thank you all.